Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by CJ Vogel. It's time for Rapid Reaction. CJ, Longhorns yesterday taking down the Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville, 20-10. A lot of brouhaha over the quarterback play, good, bad, indifferent. A lot of accolades going towards a Texas defense that held the Arkansas Razorbacks to just 231 yards and accumulated 6 sacks and caused 2 turnovers. Just your thoughts on the game initially as we talk here today.
Yeah, a win is a win. I think that's the biggest takeaway that you can have, right? You know, we've seen it firsthand. Winning on the road in the SEC, it's not an easy thing to do. We just watched a very tight game really across the country. We just watched Oregon, right, last night go into Wisconsin, and that was an ugly game. I mean, all across the country, winning on the road is not supposed to be easy, especially late in November conference games. So for Texas to be able to keep alive its SEC hopes and dreams, be able to keep alive its college football hopes and dreams, that's the end goal. And I think first and foremost, I was probably a little over my skis, Bobby, predicting a big blowout victory. Yeah, we watched Ole Miss walk into Fayetteville and blow them out. Well, Arkansas doesn't care about Ole Miss. You know, they didn't come off of a bye week looking to completely revamp their defensive scheme and get up for the emotional aspect of an Ole Miss football game. It just isn't the case. Texas comes to town a little bit differently. And that's what I think we saw that Saturday afternoon, just a completely different attitude, mindset, a little bit more hope, I would say, on the Arkansas front as well. And that certainly played into how close and kind of ugly that game became Saturday.
Yeah, I would say this. I mean, LSU goes to Gainesville and loses to Florida. Missouri goes to South Carolina and nearly comes away with the win, but South Carolina holds on. Tennessee goes to Georgia and loses. Your point about going on the road in the SEC is totally true. Home teams winning all of those contests. So I get where you're going with that, CJ. Let's talk a little bit, though, because I do think that the quarterback situation and how Quinn played those first 3 quarters deserve a little bit more attention. You mentioned revamped defensive scheme. You were at the press conference in postgame. You spoke to both Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers about this. What was it about a revamped defensive scheme that gave Quinn and Steve Sarkisian so much consternation those first 3 quarters?
Yeah, to me, I mean, look, from the press box, you get the all-22 view, right? You know, and I think most fans in the stadium, they kind of get an idea of what's going on the field. But Arkansas, I thought, in my eyes, at least, did a great job of kind of playing a 3-3-3 stack, right? You know, they had the 3 high safeties and they had their 2 outside corners. There's your 11 players. They had a 3-down, 3 linebacker look with 3 high safeties that didn't really ever move from where they were lined up. Did they switch it up at times? Perhaps, but in normal 1st and 10, 2nd and medium, 3rd and long situations, that's exactly what you saw. And, I talked to Matthew Golden after the game, who told me straight up, yeah, that's annoying. It's annoying to play the 3 high safety look. I asked Quinn Ewers, what kind of issues does that provide? He said, look, it takes away the verticality. You can't throw deep when it's those kind of looks because you just don't have the space down the field the way that you would have. And we saw a throw to Matthew Golden on the sideline from Quinn Ewers that was looking like it was going to be a good throw. Unfortunately, they're in a cover 3 look. Instead of being on the hash, they're probably 5 yards outside the hash. And instead of being a completed pass, it's a ball with a hand on it from a defender. It's incomplete instead of a 30-yard gain. That's the issues that a cover 3 high look brings to an offense like Steve Sarkisian's. Now to kind of remedy that, you got to get the run game going. And Texas had the run game going in the 4th quarter, but that's obviously a little bit too late, Bobby, in terms of getting that offensive rhythm going and finding some sort of consistency and rhythm throughout the first 3 quarters, as you were talking about.
My question is this, though. I mean, just from our standpoint this morning, I think about it, and this isn't something new that Quinn or Steve Sarkisian's seen. The 3 high safety, very common to see it in the Big 12. I wonder what took them so long to really get it going. Sark said in the postgame that, hey, we actually had a pretty productive second half. We just were limited on possessions, only had 4 real possessions in the half, 1 long touchdown drive, a field goal drive, as well as the drive to close out the game. So they ate some clock and had some success in the second half. But what took them so long to get going? And it's not like they shouldn't have expected Arkansas to run some three high, because they had been doing it earlier in the year.
And that's the frustration, right? They had even run some three high against Ole Miss. And, well, we had all talked about Ole Miss leading up to this weekend and seeing them throw for 570 and 6 scores. You're saying, okay, it doesn't matter, because that's the talent gap between a good quarterback, a good wide receiving core, and the Arkansas secondary. Fortunately for Arkansas, that week off appears to have fixed all of the holes in that secondary and all of the inconsistencies in that defense. But to your point, Texas had seen three high looks before. And for whatever reason, it's been TCU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, all these teams that have given Texas, Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers specific troubles. There's not yet been that consistent remedy to allow for consistent ball movement. And that's overall the biggest issue, I think, is, listen, if you're an opposing defensive coordinator and you're playing Texas next week, why would you not spend the whole week implementing a three high look? Because Texas doesn't necessarily have that solution. And it's been a recurring issue for multiple years now. I don't know if it's Sarkisian. I don't know if it's Quinn Ewers. I don't know if it's the wide receivers not creating separation. But I do know when you compound all of the issues that we saw on Saturday with an offensive line and Quinn Ewers taking sacks and not allowing pressure to, create other opportunities with the legs, then it becomes a big-time dead end for the offense. And that almost cost the Longhorns the game in that third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, it almost did. They got the Razorbacks got back into it. By the way, Ewers finishes 20 of 32 for 176, 2 touchdowns. I want to say this: no turnovers. Did not give Arkansas a short field. Texas did not want to do that because they are a better team than Arkansas. The only way I felt like Arkansas might win this football game, even when they were rallying in the second half, would be a turnover of some sort by the Longhorns. All right, let's take a step back now and talk a little bit about the defense because they absolutely played lights out. 0 points at the half. Absolutely dominated Arkansas. Taylen Green, anytime it was third and long, Arkansas had no chance. Colin Simmons was pinning his ears back, whether it was Barron Sorrell or Trey Moore getting a sack. Alfred Collins came in. In the second half, though, Arkansas got some things going. It started actually getting some ball movement. Steve Sarkisian had a very prescient discussion with the announcer on the sideline at the end of the third quarter. Said, look, we have to make a negative play and get them behind the chains on first or second down. We're just not doing it. In the very first play or the second play of the fourth quarter, Andrew Makuba makes that play, ends up forcing an Arkansas field goal as opposed to letting them go in and score more. I thought that was a big one. But overall, this defense, CJ, you and Rod, credit to you, you've been calling it all year. This defense looks more and more elite because this is not a poor Arkansas offense at all, and they were healthy this weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I think and this Arkansas offense can beat you in a number of different ways. The true running back downhill running attack, the quarterback running attack, the quarterback throwing the football. Andrew Armstrong, we finally saw him in the second half find some success against the younger cornerback. But to the point being, this was as prominent an offensive attack Texas has faced the entire season. And to shut them out in the first half, to really contain them in the second half. I know that there was that long touchdown drive. Hey, you're on the road playing an SEC team with a veteran quarterback and a good group of weapons around them. That scoring drives happen. It was a very positive showing for me with this Texas defense. Again, I've graduated from Texas becoming an elite defense to now, look, I think this might be the best overall defense in the country. And again, that goes to playing sound football, creating negative plays. They were 2-0 in the turnover department. They created 6 sacks. First and foremost, I wanted to point this out because, Bobby, that first half could have gone much differently. Arkansas did move the football, but to the point, they never were ever close to scoring points. And that's the ultimate deciding factor, right? Arkansas had 4 snaps in Texas territory in the first half. Sack for -10, sack for -12, a rush for 0, and a holding call for -10. That's negative 32 net yards on 4 snaps in your own territory on Saturday. That's tremendous production by the Texas defense, and it's continued to showcase every single week. And Jahdae Barron, we could talk a whole nother episode on him, Bobby. That was a clinic at cornerback by number 7 this weekend.
Yeah, I tell you what, I agree with you. We are actually going to talk a little bit about the secondary, a little bit more about some other stuff going on as well. Let's first say thank you to our sponsor. Each and every Rapid Reactions video on Sunday morning brought to you by our friend Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any time, make sure you reach out to Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. He's been helping injured Texans for 20 plus years. He gives you a no strings attached free consultation to see whether or not you might be due compensation. It is a free no strings attached consultation. All right, CJ, we look and talk about this game. And I think the other thing that I would say is Texas came alive when they needed to. The fourth quarter, if you really look at it, Texas goes on a scoring drive. Texas gets stops a drive to a field goal, then creates a turnover, and then runs out the clock. That's as good as Texas can finish a competitive game
100%.
in many respects. So do they carry this momentum forward? Do they use this momentum in this off week? Because, look, the next 2 weeks are going to decide their fate. Kentucky this coming weekend, and then also, obviously, A&M on the road in 2 weeks. Is this a game where they can actually use this momentum of showing they had a spine in the fourth quarter, coming back and beating back Arkansas, and then taking home the win?
You would like to think so, right? But also scoring 49 points and blowing out Florida also probably insinuated you would have had some momentum coming into Arkansas. And we didn't necessarily see that in the first half, especially offensively. I think defensively, there's no more questions about who their identity is. You know that they're going to stand up and be elite, whoever they play against. Offensively, it's about finding that rhythm, finding that mojo. Texas, for whatever reason, Bobby, it's frustrating. You get to second and short, you get to second and medium, and 3 times over the last 2 weeks, you've seen -7 or -8 yard plays without necessarily taking sacks. And then you get to third down, and, well, Texas took 3 sacks on third down again. And whether you want to debate it if it was Quinn Ewers, whether you want to debate if it's the offensive line, the result's the same. And the result is the punt team is running onto the field and your drive is stalling without any points. And that can't be happening whenever you're playing elite opponents, which who Texas will face against Texas A&M and the college football playoff and whatnot going forward. That has to change. So momentum aside, it's about looking in the mirror and saying, what kind of offense is this right now? Is there an identity? Is there a hot and cold each week? Because if you play hot and cold, you won't be making it as far as you hope to be making it this year, especially with who is left on the schedule and who might be playing for an SEC championship game or college football playoff. There has to be some sort of remedy.
I think I've got the identity. It's the short passing game. That's what I think in the intermediate passing game at most. Whether that's a short passing game and the screen game, obviously, whether that's to Jaden Blue, Trey Weiser, Gunnar Helm on a screen pass. I think that short passing game is what makes Texas go and get the chains moving. Then they can mix in the run a little bit here and there. Texas, that to me right now is their offensive identity. They don't have the deep ball. A week after Quinn really threw nice deep ball against Florida a couple times.
Yep.
He looked really bad on Saturday trying to do the same thing. So I know
there's one more thing I can add on Quinn, Bobby. I have no issues with the check downs. I have no issues with the short game. That's what we've seen Sarkisian, deploy his entire time here at Texas. My critique of Quinn was really the first time this year where we've seen errant throws in this short to intermediate, right? It was the 3rd and 6 going into the red zone where he missed Gunnar Helm on a slant. That's normally a walk-in touchdown. We saw it earlier this year. And then there was the check down to Gunnar Helm on the sideline. 3rd and 8 again, incomplete pass, bring out the kicker. It was errant throws. It was not accurate throws, and that's where the critiques come in. Because, listen, Quinn's been fine throwing check downs, short routes, 10 to 15 yards, whatever. But when you are errant and you're inaccurate in that regard, then what do you have as a quarterback that can't really create on your own and a quarterback that can't hit deep? That's where the issues come in, and that's where you see the offense kind of become very stagnant moving forward.
That's a fair assessment, I think. I will say this again. The fourth quarter made a couple of really nice throws, one to Isaiah
Definitely.
Bond. I really love that play on the goal line to Juan Davis. He worked through his progressions at a time in the game where Texas needed a touchdown there, not a field goal.
Had to be a touchdown.
And that throw to Juan Davis was a big one because it gave Texas a first down inside the 5-yard line. CJ, another thing I want to ask, and this is another Quinn issue. What did you think of him on that 4th and 2 zone read keep where he made the first down? You rarely see, and we've been covering Quinn. He's been the starter for 3 years. How many times have you seen him get up and kind of like do a first down that's not kind of a, hey, I got a first down, but an actual gut first down, like, hey, let's go, guys, kind of thing? I haven't seen him do that, and you were down on the field at that time for your media pass. What was that like, and what did that do for the guys on the sideline?
Yeah, I'd love to see it more. I truly would. I'm sure you would love to see it more. I'm sure Texas fans would love to see it more. And you know what? It kind of reverted me back to was on the road in Ann Arbor. You walk out of the tunnel. What's the big clip that you remember? Well, it's Quinn Ewers saying, let's go, boys. I'm paraphrasing there, right? He was using some other language, but that's the excitement. That's the passion that you want to see out of your quarterback, the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it. He's your leader on the field. Show some emotion. Be that guy that the guys in the huddle can lean on. We talked to Trey Wisner after the game Saturday, and he said, listen, he tells me every time I'm in the huddle, you're a dog, go be a dog. Well, on that play call, it was Trey Wisner telling Quinn, hey, go be a dog. And he ended up making the play, icing the game out. And as a result, I think the offensive line enjoyed it. The sideline certainly enjoyed it. You saw the reaction with Jeff Banks and Steve Sarkisian. They feed off of that. That's the energy that you need from a quarterback. And I think there are times where it disappears with Quinn, but that's the level of energy and passion that can inspire a team. And I think you need to see more of it moving forward.
I hope that they can use that momentum going forward. Like
I agree.
Talked about. I think that's going to be a key piece of this. CJ, other thoughts that you had from this game that you wanted to hit on, whether or not it was personnel usage, actual things that you saw just from a rapid reaction standpoint?
Yeah, I'd actually texted Rod Babers during the first quarter. I said, hey, Texas finally went to the pony package. It was the third possession. They had it for 2 straight plays. You get a gain of 17, you get a play of 11. I'm like, okay. They found some offensive rhythm. It had been a little bit stagnant. You're building off of the turnover, and you immediately get into the red zone. That's positive. Now, if you're Steve Sarkisian, if you're Tashard Choice, if you're Kyle Flood, whoever, find a way to build off of that. Do you go back straight to the pony package? Do you build off of it with a 31 look? We did see that on the 4th down, Bobby. I thought that was pretty unique and another example of Sarkisian digging into his bag of plays to extend drives. But when you find something that works, I think that's part of the reason why there's frustration is you see it work and then you kind of don't see it again for a couple quarters. And then you're thinking, okay, well, it was just working very well. Let's find a way to duplicate or kind of recreate it again. And so that's something interesting there. Defensively, and I'd love to get your thoughts. I think the last 4 weeks, every single week, you could look at Alfred Collins and say, that was the best game that he's played as a Texas Longhorn. And I don't think there's been a better time for that to be the case than right now.
No, he's making some money, to your point. Rod and I talked about it in postgame, CJ, and my thought process on this was he's one of those guys that can play a 3 or a 5 in the pros. He's going to be a guy that you can play on the outside on 1st and 10 and walk into the inside on 3rd down.
Yep.
And so I think it's actually he's done that. He's proving himself because he's for the first time in his career, CJ, you mentioned the 4-week thing. For the first time in his career, he's consistent. You want to get paid to do something in life? Be consistent.
Amen.
Do it every week and do it at a high level. The hustle play on Saturday to swipe that football was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that turned the game. Arkansas had some momentum, was trying to go make it a 1-score game again. Texas never gave the ball back after that.
I agree.
He also had a sack on the game, had a tackle for loss. I thought he was just a terrific player, as was Jahdae Barron. got to worry a little bit. I didn't see Anthony Hill much on Saturday. I wonder where that happened, whether or not Arkansas's quarterback run game may have actually taken Hill as a disruptor out of the game a little bit.
I agree.
Something that we could be thinking about as we go into the future when Texas plays, I don't know, maybe a Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. Aggies beating New Mexico State last night. By the way, I think that this bears some discussion. I talked about it earlier, but South Carolina holds on against Missouri. So Missouri's out of the conference race. Florida actually beat LSU. And because of that, LSU's now out of the conference race. Tennessee gets beat by Georgia. So now Tennessee has 2 losses. There are only 2 teams in the SEC right now with 1 loss. One's in Austin and the other's in College Station. This is going to be a big game coming up for the Longhorns in College Station in a couple of weeks. Of course, Kentucky, Texas' next opponent, they beat Murray State over the weekend, only played their starting quarterback the first half to get by the Racers of Murray State. We'll have more on that later today on the live stream tonight. Next up, we have, CJ, the offensive grades. That'll be coming out sometime later this morning. And then we'll have the defensive grades as well. Second watch with Rod Babers will also be today. It's a smorgasbord for folks wanting to talk about the Longhorns. But for now, we're going to say thank you and head out. I want to say thank you also to our sponsor, Adam Lowy, over at the Lowy Law Firm, LowyLawFirm.com, helping injured Texans for 20-plus years. Reach out to them there at LowyLawFirm.com if you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind. For CJ Vogel and our friend Adam Lowy, who's the sponsor of this show, thank y'all very much, and hook 'em. We'll see you later.